wanted to talk about my PCOS. Last video I talked about HS because I got diagnosed with HS first and then I got diagnosed with PCOS right after. So PCOS is Polycystic Ovary Syndrome, and I will read a little bit about it because I am honestly not extremely educated on what it is still to this day. It's a hormonal disorder causing enlarged ovaries with small cysts on the outer edges. The cause of polycystic ovary syndrome isn't well understood, but may involve a combination of genetic and environmental factors. I'll go ahead and read a couple of symptoms just to give you a better idea of what PCOS is. Symptoms include menstrual irregularity, excess hair growth, acne, and obesity. People may experience menstrual, abnormal menstruation, absence of menstruation, heavy menstruation, irregular menstruation, short and light menstruation, or spotting. Your weight, you may have obesity, overweight, or weight gain. Skin, you may have acne or oily skin, and also common infertility, depression, inappropriate male features, loss of scalp hair, or unwanted hair. Giving a little background to give a better picture. When I was in 5th grade, I started my period, and it was very heavy and very painful and very long. My periods would last 6 to 7 days and they were very heavy. I remember multiple times when I would bleed through my clothes and I would be wearing like pads that should not be bleeding through. When I would switch to tampons as I got older in high school, I would literally have to wear a super tampon and then also wear a pad, and I would bleed through the tampon and the pad in like a 90-minute hour session class because I would have to go to the bathroom like every single break period or else I would bleed through, and it was terrible. It was very painful. I had a lot of blood clotting, and at this time I honestly was not really thinking anything different because I had a couple of aunts who also had really heavy periods and really painful periods. Years down the line, I discovered that they were diagnosed with endometriosis and then PCOS. And then I discovered that my grandma, who had to have a hysterectomy at 34, also had endometriosis really badly. And so I'm like, okay, weird. But I got on the Depo shot when I was 17 to about 22. Basically like 4.5, 5 years I was on the Depo shot. And during that couple year period, I did not have a period. I did not experience any of my pain or symptoms. I forgot that it was that bad or that intense. Fast forward into, I think the end of 2018, I stopped getting the Depo shot. It's honestly a blur. It's really hard for me to remember exactly when everything was. But at some point in 2018 or 2019, I stopped the Depo shot. I think it was 2018 because I've been off the Depo for over a year now. I stopped the Depo and it took about 6-7 months to get my periods back. I noticed that my periods had changed quite a bit. My periods went from 6-7 days to about 4 days. And I noticed that my periods were not as heavy, but they were still very painful. This is like just so much TMI, but I don't care. I just want to be very transparent. I ended up having extreme rectal pressure when I was on my periods, to the point where it would be so painful to go to the bathroom. I would end up either having diarrhea or being constipated because it was so much pressure that like I did not want to go to the bathroom. It hurt to go to the bathroom. I felt like I needed to go to the bathroom, but I couldn't. It was just a lot of pain, and like in my pelvis area, it all just felt heavy and so much pressure, and I just had so much pain. I had a lot of blood clotting. My lower back would kill me during my periods. It just felt wrong. And so I thought maybe I'm just being a big baby and maybe it's all in my head and I'm fine. I have the clue up, so I have been tracking my periods ever since my periods started back up after the Depo shot. So I have a track from several months of my period. I keep track of it because I just want to make sure that everything's fine. And so I started doing a little bit of research because I had a feeling that maybe my periods were not very normal because of the amount of pain I was in. I would ask people and they'd be like, oh yeah, my periods are kind of painful. And a couple of warning signs that maybe you should get checked by a doctor is if your periods are so bad that even after ibuprofen or after a heating pack, it's still hurting, or if it's so bad that you are having to miss work or school. Those two signs indicate that something's not normal and you should probably go to your doctor, because that was me. I did not miss work or school hardly ever, but I wanted to. I was in so much pain all the time, but I just pushed through it and I ignored it and I ignored it. And I'm someone who is very bullheaded and I just would ignore it. And I would not be that person who was about to call into work because I had period cramps, because people just don't understand that. And especially people who don't have very painful periods or don't have a condition that causes that pain, they look at your periods as their periods and they cannot understand why you would call in because of some cramping. No, sweetheart, it's not that. It's much worse than just like normal period cramps, because it's normal to cramp and it's normal to have a little bit of pain, but you should be able to function through that pain. You should not want to lay in your bed and just curl up in a ball and not move for 3 to 4 days while you're on your period like I was doing. That's not normal. So I finally just bite the bullet and I call a dermatologist clinic and I get in. First of all, it's a male, and I have never been to a male gynecologist, never had a male do any physical exam whatsoever, none of that. Don't like it. I've never had a pap smear prior to seeing the dermatologist, and I'm 23. You're technically supposed to start getting a pap smear once you turn 21, but I would always say no thank you, nope. It was just too awkward for me, but it's very important for your health to be getting it every 3 years as long as your testing comes back normal. If it doesn't come back normal, usually they want you to do it yearly, or if you have family who has cervical cancer, like very close family like your grandmother or your mom, then they typically want you to come back in every year just to make sure that you also don't have cervical cancer cells, because early detection is very key. Anyways, he does a pelvic exam and then he also tests me for like STDs and then does the pap smear and asks me a ton of questions and then asks me about my periods. And he asked me basically for the last 6 months. So it was from January to March or May. He wanted me to tell him what my periods were and when my last period was. And actually I had like 2 weeks prior to coming to that appointment had my period. So I was actually a day away from the day I was supposed to ovulate according to my calculator on Clue. And I let him know that, and he basically told me that my periods were not normal. And I did not know that. I assumed because I had a period every single month that my periods were normal, but he told me that they were not. He basically told me that my cycle dates had shifted so much that it was not normal, and also like I would start my period in the beginning of a month and then at the very end of a month, and then just randomly would, like, I don't know, I thought my periods were normal. I thought that I was having them every month. My Clue app was very point on whenever I would start my periods, so I assumed nothing was wrong. I was wrong. He also looked at my face and said my hair follicles were very open compared to females, and that can be an indication of testosterone. And I honestly hadn't really recognized that I had more like hair on my body than other people, but I mean, I definitely feel a little more self-conscious about my facial hair. It's not just like little peach fuzz, but I definitely don't have like dark follicles or like anything that is as severe as some people with PCOS, so it makes me question it. It's just hard to know with PCOS what it is and what it isn't. But he wanted me to do a full blood panel, so I did the full blood panel of like all my hormone testing and everything actually came back good, which he was shocked because he told me that he expects my testosterone levels to be high and my progesterone levels to be high, and both were normal. And he also expected my glucose levels to be high because your PCOS is affected by glucose, and a lot of people who have PCOS can be more prone to having type 2 diabetes, obesity, and having a resistance to glucose. And glucose is what helps you have energy. He expects my glucose levels to be very high because with PCOS a lot of times your glucose is just not working properly, and my glucose levels were at 88. He basically said, yes, I think you have PCOS, so what I want to do for you is he put me on birth control pills. This is the birth control pills I'm on. I've officially started month 3 of the birth control pills. I started yesterday. I don't know how to pronounce it. Australia, something like that. I don't know, but this is the pills that I'm on. He wanted me to be on it because he said it will regulate my cycle and regulate my hormones. Now, I'm a little bit confused about it because my hormone levels were all good. The only thing that came back a little bit weird was my DHEA sulfate levels was like 1.2 low. Normal is between 110 and something else, and my levels were like 109, so it was just very slightly under. And then my LSH levels was a 49, but remember, I was a day before I was supposed to ovulate, so that number technically I think is considered normal or just a tiny bit high. So my LH number, I don't know what any of this stuff means, but he said that that was a little high, and that can be an indicator of PCOS. And I also have HS, and you're 13 times more likely to have PCOS if you have HS. So I assume that my diagnosis is correct. The main other reason why he put me on birth control pills was because he said that he wants to see if my periods and my period cramping gets better. So he also just wants to make sure that I don't have endometriosis, and if they get better, great. If not, then he said that they want to go ahead and put me on different medication to help treat endometriosis, and possibly talk about surgery. And that's a little scary, but the only way you can actually get officially diagnosed with endometriosis is to go get surgery. They basically take a small laparoscopic camera and like little things and put it in through your belly button, or like through the belly button hole, something, I don't know, and they go look and see if you have endometrioles is what it's called, I believe, and then they can burn them out or cut them out. My appointment is at the end of this month in August. I actually don't remember what date it is, and I cannot find my card, so I need to call them Monday, tomorrow, and ask them when my appointment is. But my periods have actually gotten a lot better, but my cramping and pain is still there. He kind of confused me because he said that if I am on the pills and my periods get better, that means I have endometriosis. But if I'm on the pill and my periods do not get better, that means I have endometriosis, and he wants to do further testing and wants to put me on different medication or surgery. But we'll talk about it in 3 months. So to me, that sounds like either way he still thinks I also have endometriosis, but one means he'll further investigate, and then the other means he's just gonna leave it at that. But I'm not very comfortable with being on pills if I don't have to be, especially if my hormones were mostly okay. So I'm just a little concerned about it, but what can I do? I'm just gonna trust these doctors and hope that they have the correct knowledge, and that they're listening to me, and that they believe me, and that they are doing what is the best thing for me. With PCOS, infertility, and with endometriosis, infertility is a pretty big factor. With PCOS, the reason why infertility happens is because you either don't have regular periods, or you do have periods, then you're not ovulating, or if you are having periods, then your ovulation is not accurate, so you don't know exactly when you're ovulating. I don't know if I'm gonna have pregnancy issues or infertility. Time will tell. We have not tried. We are not trying to try. I'm clearly on birth control right now because of my doctor, so that's probably my biggest concern. And with endometriosis, it's another ball game because you can possibly have issues with not being able to get your eggs out, because you can get endometrioles to cover your fallopian tubes or your ovaries, and it can cause a lot of issues. It's very nerve-wracking, so I'm kind of hoping that at the end of this month I'll get some good results back and he'll kind of have a better game plan. I honestly just kind of wish he would do the surgery for endometriosis to test and see if I have it, just so I know, so I'm prepared, so that come time when Trey and I decide to want to start having children, that I'm prepared fully and knowledgeable of what could happen, and then have the best game plan for having children. But I don't know what's gonna happen at the end of this month. I don't know what could happen in the next year from now, but I just know that I was diagnosed with PCOS, and I'm starting this journey from day one. I know a lot of YouTubers have come out and talked about PCOS, and then a lot of people just think it's just some little thing, it's not a big deal, but for me it's a big deal. Infertility is a big deal. It's scary. It's hard to not know what could happen, so hopefully everything will turn out fine. But I wanted to be very transparent and open with you guys and talk about my symptoms, talk about my diagnosis, my experience at the gynecologist, and what medication they put me on, and I will give an update as updates are given to me. So getting 2 diagnoses in the same week was hard, even though I knew I had HS. I did not expect to have PCOS. I thought that I was going in having a diagnosis of endometriosis, so it kind of threw me through a hoop. And then to hear, oh, you might have both endometriosis and PCOS was extremely hard to swallow. So I'm still digesting it all. I'm still trying to educate myself. I'm still trying to understand how I got the diagnosis, since my hormone levels were okay and I had periods every month. I'm still trying to understand what causes or what could cause PCOS. So I am still trying to educate myself. There's, I guess, different kinds of PCOS that can affect people differently. It's all super confusing, but as I learn more, I will be sure to share with you guys, and I will be very open about everything. So I hope that this video helped someone. I will leave a couple of links down below about PCOS so that if you want to educate yourself, you can. They will be there. But other than that, I think I'm going to go ahead and finish this video off. I will be giving an update, like I said, once I have my appointment later this month about what the next step is. If you have any tips or any information about PCOS that you would like me to know, go ahead and leave that in the comments below. But I'm going to go ahead and end the video now. Thank you guys so much for watching. May all your stars align, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.